Awesome. Hello, friends, and welcome to the third edition of the Software Architecture Conference. And today is day two. I hope you're enjoying the event since there are so many fantastic sessions and technologies that are being shown in this conference. And I'm Rodrigo Diaz Concha, as the presentation that Simon uh, showed said. And I'm a Microsoft Regional Director. I'm also a Microsoft MVP since 16 years ago, currently in both the Microsoft Azure and development technologies categories. So we're truly living in exciting times, right? AI development has become more accessible, especially with the rise of generative AI, which is a type of artificial intelligence that generates text and also images and videos and audio and so many other outputs in response to prompts, right? For example, here's a video that was shared the other day in X. Amazingly, this person doesn't exist, and it's becoming, as you can see here, it's becoming very difficult to identify what's real and what's not. This video was created with the Runway platform and one of its latest models. You can go ahead and navigate to runwayml.com to see how you can create this fantastic kind of media assets. So inspired by that video, I opened up the browser, navigated to the Runway webpage, and realized that you can also use a photo to create a video from it, right? And here's the result. You can see that I uploaded my picture and the video was created, and it's kind of creepy, right? It's kind of disturbing. And you can also use the
Welcome
lip
to my
sync.
Keynote, AI and GenAI for the busy software architect.
I hope uh, you listen to that audio. You can also use the lip sync feature to input the text you want your photo to say. So you can see that this is more disturbing, right? Because now the photo is speaking. This is amazing, and you get the idea.
Okay, let's try this again. Welcome to my Keynote, AI and GenAI for the busy software architect.
So yeah, I hope you're listening to the audio. I'm not sure if the audio is being transmitted from my computer to your speakers. And this is because I realized that I hadn't changed the voice that I selected beforehand, and then I re-rendered the video with this other voice, which is kind of
Okay, let's try this again. Welcome to my Keynote, AI
this
and
is
GenAI
this
for
is
the busy
fantastic. This
software
is
architect.
fascinating, and this is frightening, right? In all seriousness, we are truly living in exciting times, right? And of course, media creation is just one example of the capabilities of generative AI. According to Goldman Sachs, generative AI could increase global GDP by as much as 7%, or roughly $7 trillion over the next 10 years, which is fascinating, right? While many other predictions align with this, there are some that they don't agree with this, and that's fine. The important takeaway is that generative AI is not going anyway. It's not going anywhere, sorry, and it's rapidly becoming a crucial part of everyone's lives, okay? And this is why software architecture is more important than ever, especially if you're building software solutions and you're planning to incorporate or adopt generative AI functionalities or features in your own applications. So I think there are two primary ways to leverage generative AI: enhancing and improving your own tasks, in other words, how you can perform better your tasks, your daily tasks as a software architect, and how you can improve your end users' tasks. So let's see the first way. As a software architect, you don't work alone in an ivory tower, right? You don't work in isolation. I hope you don't do that. So you're working alongside business professionals, you're working alongside marketing team members, software engineers, testers, product managers, and so on. So those kind of processes and tasks and workflows, when you want to communicate to those people, you can improve those, right? So for instance, with generative AI, you can create documentation. You can open up your favorite model and type your requirements or your code and then create the documentation for that particular project. You can also create diagrams. For instance, you can create, just one example is creating database diagrams, relationships between tables and so on. You can create those with generative AI technologies. You can also use generative AI for requirements analysis. In other words, you can input your requirements and let the model to give you some suggestions about the requirements and about the software architecture that you're trying to create, right? Trade-off analysis. This is another big one for us software architects because you can input all the requirements and all the context and different scenarios, and you can also grab a lot of different data sources like emails and I don't know, maybe documents in paper, and you can scan those and grab the text and let the generative AI technology to give you an analysis of the trade-offs about that particular project. And it can also give you suggestions, as I said, and you can also automate processes, right? For instance, maybe you are reporting to your team daily or each Friday or so on. You can automate those processes by saying to the Gen AI technology, hey, you know what? I want this report or this email to be sent out to my team daily or each Friday, and so on, right? And it can also improve communication between team members. As a software architect, you're writing a lot of emails, you're writing a lot of reports, you are communicating to those people that I mentioned before, such as business professionals, product managers, marketing members, and whatnot. And you can use generative AI to create a template for those emails or those kind of communication mechanisms and let the Gen AI technology to create the content and, of course, send it out to your team members. So software architecture tasks and workflow is just one example. You can also use Gen AI for software development and software engineering practices, such as code explanation. This is a big one. You can use today technologies such as Copilot and let Copilot to explain this particular code snippet that you maybe don't understand because you didn't create it. Or maybe you did and time has passed and you don't remember what was the reasoning behind the code, right? That happens a lot. And you can use Copilot to explain the code. And this is important for legacy code bases, right? Us software developers and software architects were struggling frequently with code bases that were created, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago or 9 years ago with ancient technologies such as, I don't know, maybe .NET Framework, right? Or Visual Basic, or an older version of Java, and so on. So with this code explanation feature, you can understand what's going on behind the reasoning of that particular code. Code generation. Of course, you can create code and you can input the requirements. This is, you can use Copilot, but of course, you can use ChatGPT or Claude or any other chat-based Gen AI platform. You can input your requirements and let the Gen AI technology to output the code. For example, you can say, hey, create code that communicates to this server by using TCP sockets, and the address is this one and the port is this one, and I want to use this class. You can input those requirements and let the technology to output the code. And you can also say, hey, I want this code in Python. I want this code to be created in JavaScript or C# and whatnot, right? And code documentation. You can grab your code, your existing code, and let the technology to create the documentation, because nobody does documentation nowadays, right? So we have these technologies. Documentation is perfectly fine, is quite needed, and it's helpful. The thing about documentation is that it becomes super outdated very rapidly, right? So with this kind of technologies, you can have your documentation to be in sync with your code. And another example is creating synthetic data. This is a big one when you are trying to create some kind of data set that you want to use for, say, unit testing or for training your own models. That's something that I truly don't recommend. But if you're doing that, maybe you need some kind of data set, and you can create that data set by using synthetic data created by a large language model. So I've used this in the past for unit testing. This is perfectly acceptable, mainly when you want to, I don't know, test some kind of function or behavior that needs different variations of data, and you don't have enough imagination to create, and time, of course, to create that data. Okay, so synthetic data creation is another example that we can say about Gen AI, and for product management as well. So you can pitch your idea to this model and let the model give you suggestions or give you comments about your product idea, about this application that you want to create, right? For instance, you can say, hey, I want to create this application that, I don't know, tracks the activities and behavior of my kids in kindergarten. And I want to try this scenario, and I want to create this mobile application, and I want to do this and do that, and let the technology give you back suggestions and comments about that idea. You can also create roadmaps. You can create your product roadmap or application roadmap. Let the technology give you suggestions about that. Visual assets, this is a big one. You can see that I'm using some nicely done images that were created by using Bing image creation. In the backend, this is DALL-E. This is the technology that was created by OpenAI. But you can see that you can create visual assets, and you can also create text, as I mentioned before, and wireframes for your user interface. That's another big one when you are trying to create something rapidly and you want to take advantage of Gen AI for your products, right? So there are many other different scenarios where you can use Gen AI when you are trying to improve, or you're trying to make more agile your daily tasks, right? So what about this application that you're trying to create? You're planning this solution, and you want to implement Gen AI features and logic and behavior in your application. What about that? So here, there are like thousands and thousands of options that we can use nowadays. And most of the time, those Gen AI solutions will be based on chatbots, will be based on agents. The difference between chatbots and agents is that a chatbot, you give a prompt, or ask a question, and it responds back with the response, right? With the answer that you're trying to find. And agents are some kind of applications that are running all the time. And agents, instead of just responding back, they do things. Okay, they perform tasks. This is important. Agents are paramount, and I believe agents are one of the most important and will be one of the most important features of GenAI in the following months and years. In other words, you can create applications that do the work for you. I was saying this example, this scenario where you send this report to your team members daily or each day, or I don't know, each Friday. So of course that application needs access to your email, needs access to the other people's email addresses, and I don't know, maybe it needs access to this particular database or documents, since you want to, create content based on that. So agents, my friends, are what GenAI is going to be, where GenAI is going to be huge in the following months and years. And of course, you have to take advantage of multimodal models. In other words, models, you can input text, you can input images, you can input videos, and also audio. For example, you can see the OpenAI ChatGPT application in your mobile and speak with the model, right? You're not sending text. You're just speaking with this virtual thing that is responding back. And with of course, it comprehends natural language, and you can speak as if you were speaking with other person. And this application, this technology, this intelligence is responding back, and through audio, and of course, video and images as well. You can also create connecting the dots kind of solutions. And this is where you want, as I mentioned before, you want to use data from your databases. You want to use data from your emails, right? From your users' inboxes. Or maybe you want to scan a lot of documents that you have in paper and extract some text from those documents, and then let the intelligence connect the dots for you, right? For example, hey, I want to know what was the most important product that we have sold in the past 3 years or something, right? And let the intelligence connect the dots for you. And of course, media and content creation, like the videos that I showed before, right? And speaking about those videos that I showed, I hope you can sleep at night today after watching those videos. Okay, so as a software architect, you have to be aware of some quality attributes, right? Software architecture is all about trade-offs. It's always about trade-offs. So it's impossible to have all the quality attributes in the world in a single application, right? So you have to identify what are the most important quality attributes for your solution. And when you're using GenAI and you want to adopt and implement some kind of GenAI features in your solutions, security is paramount, okay? Security, usability, availability, right? Because nobody wants this application, this solution to be available, I don't know, maybe just a couple of minutes each day, right? You have to have this availability for all your users. And of course, observability is a huge one as well, since large language models and GenAI technologies are stochastic. In other words, you don't know if the next response will be the same as the previous one. Of course, you can manage some parameters such as temperature and so on. However, the nature of GenAI is to be non-deterministic, right? So you have to be aware of that. That's why observability is one of the most important quality attributes for your software solutions when you're implementing this kind of solutions, okay? So security, before I go to this other slide, security is paramount as well, because jailbreaks, those are quite common nowadays when you're using large language models. You don't want to do that, and you don't want your users to jailbreak your GenAI solutions, okay? So pattern and styles. So patterns and styles, speaking of software architecture, of course, you can use actually any kind of style or pattern that you're using nowadays. You have to consider your model as any other module, any other component in your overall architecture. So I believe it's not different than having this, I don't know, this service, this endpoint, this component, this, I don't know. You can use monolithic architectural style. You can use microservices. You can use serverless. And you can also use and take advantage of edge computing. And this is going to be huge in the following months and years, since small language models are becoming more capable than ever. So not large language models, but small small language models that can be run in small mobile phones, or I don't know, devices or laptops and tablets and so on. Okay, so how you can transform your career path as an AI architect? Let's talk about this. First, skills. You need to have problem solving and creativity. Okay, you have to be creative. You have to know how to talk to the model. You have to know how to speak with this intelligence, right? I'm talking about prompt designing and prompting techniques, okay? And this is critical. Focus on the real market needs, okay? You have to understand who the real customer is. So there's no reason why you want to use AI and GenAI just because you want to use it, right? Don't fall into FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. You don't need AI if you don't identify the market and the real need for your GenAI feature, okay? And of course, you have to understand and apply responsible AI principles and ethical implications of AI, such as you have to understand your users. You have to understand the data that you are sending out to people, okay? So here's this phrase from Robert Greene, the author of the 48 Laws of Power, which is a fascinating book. The best way to protect yourself is to be as fluid and formless as water. Never bet on stability or lasting order. Everything changes, okay? So you have to adapt, because this is a moving target, friends. AI is a moving target. Each day, you can see in the news, in LinkedIn and social media, there are like thousands and thousands of different applications and frameworks and options and models related to Gen AI. So this is a moving target. Technologies and techniques. Speaking of those, you have to understand models. You have to understand the basics of and essential traits of models, and of course, frameworks that you want to use in your applications for building this kind of solutions, RAG, vector databases, and glossary. So let's talk about models. I'm talking about large language models and also small language models. I'm always confused about that L. Small language models. So For instance, if you want to implement this Gen AI feature in your application, you have to identify if this super huge model is going to be enough, or maybe this other smaller model is better, right? And you can also identify, and you need to identify closed source and open source models. For example, OpenAI's models are closed source, right? Such as GPT-3 and GPT-4. Those are closed source. And you can also use open source models such as Llama or Mistral or some others that are, as I said, open source. And you also need to identify if a general purpose or a specialized model is enough for you, okay? There are some models that are general purpose, and there are some others that are specialized in a particular industry, such as healthcare or marketing and so on. So you have to identify that. And finally, you have to specify if you want to use a software as a service solution, such as OpenAI's endpoints or Azure or AWS and so on. Or maybe you want to host your own models in your own infrastructure or private cloud, right? So I think that's better when you are trying to lower costs and you want to keep your data with you, right? And not let the data go out to this other external third-party company. So just be aware that models come and go. Each day we're watching the news and social media, and models are everywhere, right? Thousands and thousands of models. And here's an interesting chart that I found the other day in LinkedIn. And on average, 60 days down to 20 days in the last 6 months are the average that a model is in the top in the charts, right? So for instance, Gemini 1.5 Pro, blah, 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 it was just 3 days at number one, just 3 days in the charts. So we're not talking about the, music charts. We're not talking about the Billboard, where some albums stay in the charts for years and years. No, this is quite different, right? Just take a look at this one. Number of days at number one, just one. And of course, this is because this is a new one, ChatGPT 4.0. This is another one that has stayed for a long time in the charts. You get the idea. Just be aware of models. They come and go. You have to identify and you have to test those models just to see if they could work for your solutions. Talking about frameworks. So there are many, many dozens of different frameworks out there, okay? So I'm just including 4 here. Semantic Kernel, which is a fantastic framework for creating LLM-based solutions by using .NET and Python. You can also use Haystack or Llama Index or LangChain for building those solutions. What's cool about Semantic Kernel is that if you are a C# developer, Semantic Kernel is first-class citizen in the .NET world. And Llama Index, LangChain, and Haystack, you can use Python, and you can also use other programming languages. RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation. This is a very famous pattern and technique for using your own data to give context to the intelligence so it can respond back with grounded data. In other words, it can respond back with the data and information that you want, your private data and documents. So this is another pattern, and this is another thing that you have to be on the lookout because there are many different options and different techniques for doing this. And of course, vector databases. Vector databases allowed you to store embeddings, which is a mathematical representation of words, and the explanation is more detailed than that, but it actually, a vector database allows you to store a vector, which is in the Cartesian chart. You can store those big numbers, and you can retrieve those data and information from the vector databases in many different ways, such as you can use Azure AI Search, Chroma, Pinecone, many different options that we have nowadays. And finally, you have to be careful and you have to be aware of hundreds of different words and terms and little phrases about Gen AI, such as fine-tuning, zero-shot, few-shot, and so on. So I totally recommend to you understand the basic, right? You understand the essential glossary of Gen AI if you want to create this kind of solutions. You don't have to be an expert in the transformer architecture. And actually, I truly believe you don't have to be an expert in deep learning, and you don't have to be an expert in machine learning as well. But actually, there's a nice example. This is a web page that you can navigate to understand how transformers work. And transformer is an architecture that is used by the GPT kind of models and other models as well. So this is a pretty cool web page that you can use to understand the math behind a transformer. Okay. So use cases, the top 4 use cases that McKinsey and Company detected some months ago are software engineering, customer operations, product research and development, and marketing. So those 4 are the top use cases where you can use Gen AI. So you can see there are, of course, other use cases, but those 4 are the most important ones. Challenges. So don't trust the models blindly, okay? They hallucinate. They're trying to be gentle. They're trying to be helpful. So there are times where they just make up things, right? They hallucinate. That's the term. So that's a challenge. Culture. You have to have the culture. You have to have the team topology to create this kind of solutions. Maybe you have to change the way you work nowadays if you want to adopt and you want to implement Gen AI in your software solutions. So you have to have the buy-in from the company itself and the stakeholders, and maybe the culture will need to be changed. And finally, don't let analysis paralysis to stop you from creating something, right? Begin now. Start now. There are many technologies and platforms and models and frameworks out there that you can use today, okay? Don't let analysis paralysis to stop you. And it was so great to be here with you, friends, and enjoy the rest of the conference.